Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. Super excited to be on this morning. I'm excited about our guest, as usual. When you hear me say that, it's always good stuff. So I am going to be bringing my man on right now, Mr. Thom Tillier. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you, brother?
I am good, man. Good. So glad to have you on this morning, and excited to get rolling here. But man, Thom Tillier, you're at the EXP, and you are down in Florida, right?
I am.
Yeah, it's much warmer than it is here in Michigan, which is the reason you moved from Michigan to Florida, right?
Yeah. So being in Tampa, there's a lot of things that are different, obviously, and adjusting to that real estate business is different as well. So I can't wait to talk about it with you.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Thom and I have been friends for, man, it's a long time.
40 years.
40 years. Yeah. I mean, like, we played Little League baseball together. My dad was a coach. And then Thom was a hockey player. I didn't play hockey. Right. But man, so a long time ago, but it's funny how when I was at Build, I was talking about, like, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Right. And those seasons change and come and go, and people live their lives, and then we keep crossing paths. Right. And I think it's been really cool. Getting into real estate, right? Like, you were in real estate long before I was. And then I got into it, and then our paths crossed going into the same brokerage. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty wild, and that was fun to see. And between you and I was talking to Dan Gullion last night, ironically, and I was talking to him, and I was talking to him about how all these paths cross each other, and there's a handful of people that you can relate with, and a handful of people that you kind of network with that are from your past, right? And a lot of people from our past, Jimmy, let's be real clear. There's not a large percentage that have gone on to do anything real special.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's funny. I was just talking to another friend, and he said, we're in spots sometimes we're not sure how we got here, right? Like, how did you make it to where you're at? And sometimes it's a head scratcher, right? Where you're just like, I don't know. I just keep grinding away and figuring out ways to move forward, right? Like, I'm kind of like the bull in the china shop sometimes, and just kind of push my head through the door and just kind of get in there.
That's a wild comment. The fact that you just said that we don't know how we got here. And, as I look at my 21-year-old son, Reed, and he's with me in the business now, and he's been with me in the business on and off a little bit, but he's kind of got this marketing vibe to him. Plus he's learning the real estate side of the business. I talked to him the other day, and I said, when I was 23, I was doing this. You're 21 doing this. You are leaps and bounds ahead of me,
Yep.
And it's pretty wild how things work and how we get to the place that we're at. And I can't wait to talk about it with you. So yeah, it's fun, man. It's wild that we're here in the same spot and the same time on a Friday morning having this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, life is a funny bunch of circles, right? That just keep intertwining and doing their thing. But man, the reason that, again, the thing that I always lean on you about, right? And every time I question something about real estate or whatever, and I call you, it's like a tech thing, right? Like, you're so far advanced with all your tech, like your YouTube channels and your the listing stuff you're doing with your listings and all this tech stuff. Like, that's where I'm like, I don't know. Let me call Thom and find out what's going on with tech stuff. I don't know what that means, right?
Yeah, that started a long time ago. I'm going to date myself here, but that started in 1996. And in 1996, I can tell you the moment this whole thing started, where I realized I had to be out of the box and I had to know what the latest and greatest technology was. I can tell you exactly when it happened. Got out of the military and ended up being a car salesperson in Detroit at Suburban Toyota. And in 1996, if you can recall, that's when the internet came out. I walked into Best Buy, I bought a $3,500 computer. The monitor was the size of my desk. And I also bought the best thing I ever did in my life. I bought a box called Act Database that I saw on the shelf. And I took that database box and I brought it home with my $3,500 computer. And I started building a kind of just a place to put my clients' names for the car business. I ended up not using it as much at home. So I took it to work. I set it on my desk. Every salesperson, every sales manager, everybody in the dealership thought I was crazy. They thought I was playing solitaire.
Yeah.
Actually building a little mini database. I ended up taking that to BMW, stayed at BMW for 8 years, but I had every client's name, every client's phone number, every client's license plate number. So if I saw them drive by, I could plug in their license plate number in my database and see who they were so I could go and greet them by their first name in the service department. And I could print letters from this thing. I ended up going on and on and on, ended up, being a CRM director of sales for a multi-billion dollar company, helping car dealerships with CRM and ended up with Pulte. When I got to Pulte Homes, I became a sales director, a lot to do with implementing their CRM process. And so I've always kind of had that thing, like, what is that thing that nobody else is doing that I can do? And that's kind of how we got there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that goes, but it's funny. It's one of the things that we talk about with CRMs all the time. Right now, it's now, I mean, ease of use now is incredible, right? You can do everything with the CRM. And agents will ask me all the time, like, what's the best CRM? Again, it's whatever one you're going to use. If you went and bought this Act CRM right now and put it in, it would be the best one you'd use. It doesn't matter. But like that touch, and I want to talk about that touch of that client care of like you being able to walk into the service department and going, "Hey, Joe Smith, I'm glad you stopped in today," right? And just having that to be able to break the ice with is incredible.
It did well for me for those 10 years in the car business, those 10 years inside the dealerships. And then I spent another 10 years eventually outside of the dealerships, traveling the country, basically helping car dealers with their marketing and their contact management systems.
Yeah.
So it's been good. It's been a really, really good thing. And so that was the conversation with my son Reed the other day. He's building us something. I'll tell you what it is here in a minute. And as he's building it, I actually had to go back and look at the dates. And I was like, what date was this? I said, this is the craziest story, Reed. I was 23 years old when I was building this database. You are 21 right now, and you're building out our company's Go High level.
Crazy.
And I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
He's doing it. He's got the knack for it. He's building it out. And I just flashed back. I was like, this was me with a little simple in the box database. It's like history repeating itself. It's the craziest thing I've ever experienced. And it just happened 2 days ago when I realized what was happening. It was pretty wild.
That's crazy. And then think about the advancements in technology now, right? The Go High level is an incredible platform. And from what you went with this $3,500 computer, which no computer costs $3,500 nowadays, right? Because they're all just throwaways for the most part. It's as big as your table, like you said, like weighed 40 pounds. And so then you have a separate database. So it's like, it's just crazy, man. And to see now, I said same thing, like watching my kids, right? Like, and I've got a 13-year-old and I watch what he does just on his phone, right? And he's like, so he's doing, like, he's done a couple of thumbnails for me for my YouTube channel, like just from his phone. I'm like, all right, man, feel free, like do your jam, like whatever. You're just living life. And he's like, you want me to do more? I'm like, yes, I do. Just keep doing it.
Just incredible. And so that's the thing. Technology is going so fast. And as long as and at some point I made it my mission or I don't know if it's the nerd in me. I don't know what it is. Just to stay on top of it. And at 51 years old, it's easy to realize that this thing's going to pass me up if I don't pay attention.
Yeah.
And so I always want that thing that nobody else is doing. If all the agents are going one way, I want to go this way. And that hurts me in some cases, but in a lot of cases, it gives me an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I have been down this road a couple of times with like, all right, we're going to shift and do a couple different things, right?
Mhm.
but talk to how do you know let me ask you this. How do you know, because you've done it, you've shifted gears a couple times, like throughout thing, and for the agents that are listening, like when you shift, like how do you you're trying to do something different because you're trying to stand out, right? Which is what we're all trying to get to that spot where we stand out and get more clients. But how do you know, like, you've always leaned on tech, but how do you know, like, how long do you let it marinate? How long do you let it work before you know it's working, right?
Well, that's a really good question. You can if you see you can sometimes in like the latest thing that we're working on, we saw instant results. And then there was a lull. And obviously we had a couple hurricanes come through. So there that lull, you just know that it works, right? So if you stay consistent, no matter if there's a break in the action, as long as we didn't change anything, it's going to still work out. Okay. There has been so many things though, I can't even count how many that I have hung on to way too long. So I'm not really a good judge of what works and doesn't work immediately unless it's like an instant gratification, like
Right.
instant, like, oh my gosh, we got something works here. Even if it takes a month for it to work again, we know it works. But with you, like YouTube, for example, that's all because it's been proven and tested, right? And I kind of shadow some of the best in the business with it, and I watch what they do. And when you have that proof statement, and that's really kind of the message here, I think. When you know it works because somebody else is doing it, and somebody's willing to take you and you're willing to take somebody and help them get to that point, as long as it's working, it's going to work for you too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but consistency is everything. Like calling, okay? The difference between calling working and calling not working is really, I think there's two things. There's consistency and there's skill set. Okay. There's some people that really do well calling. I don't. There's some people I just don't. It's whether I'm and I get burned out and I don't like it and I don't maybe it's because I don't see good results even if I try it for a long enough time. It's probably scripting, it's probably role play. There's probably a million reasons why. I'm kind of pointing the thumbs at me
Yeah.
because I know it's me. It's not the act of doing it because there's a lot of people really doing it well. So if I wanted to master it and go out there and if that was something I was interested in, I would find the people that are doing it well and shadow them and find out and get coaching and really if I wanted to take that on, but I don't. Me. So it's hard to
But
get kind of looped into that.
you know what the cool thing about that is, though? You know that,
Mhm.
and you don't do it. That's where agents get crossed up, I think,
Mhm.
right? I believe agents get crossed up and thinking, "Oh, well, this agent's having success calling, I should call," right? Well, but I hate it. It's like, well, don't like, if you hate it, that's how people get out of this business, right? Like, that's how people just, like, end up throwing the towel in and like, "I'm out. I'm not doing real estate no more."
I'm
Um,
so glad you said that.
yeah.
I'm so
Like,
glad you said that. I've been that agent 6 times.
yeah. Yeah. And it's just like we've got some comments coming in here on social media too. It says, "Good morning. Uh Jimmy and Tom, two of the best." I don't know about that. Tom, maybe. I don't know about me. Al Abdallah says, he's so similar to me. Everyone goes left, I go right, and our kids' ages and story with them working with us, because Al's son's now working with him too. And he said, "I like doing things others aren't doing. I like his attitude." Now it's,
Yeah. I
Al.
like Al. I've met Al a couple times. He doesn't necessarily remember. He's always got the selfie stick out and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I like Al. I've always admired Al, and even when he first came on EXP, I was watching. That was the first time I was with EXP, and then but yeah, Al's. I've been a fan of Al's for a while, kind of offline, and that's kind of what's cool about social media too. You don't know who you like and who you don't like,
Right.
or who likes
Right.
you and who doesn't like you. But
Yeah.
I like Al.
Yeah, yeah, Al's a good dude, and the funny thing is, like, he's a dialer, right? But that's his jam. That's what he
Yeah,
does. He grew up dialing, and that's what he does, right? So
yeah.
it's finding, again, finding what you like, right? Because I have a couple agents that were trying the YouTube thing, right? And
Mm.
they were trying the YouTube thing, but they weren't consistent with it, right? Like they weren't consistently it was like, well, the videos are hard, and then I got to edit it, and I got to, and I'm like, everything we do is hard, right? You
Yeah.
have everything we do is hard. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have to find out what you enjoy, and you and again, always goes back to the tech stuff, right? That's your jam. So the YouTube channel, the drones, the all the things that you do, you're natural in front of the camera. Like all your videos are fantastic. Your Florida videos and all that stuff are great. And that's now you've got your son doing the drone stuff with you. You know what I mean? Like it's very cool.
Yeah, he's been a drone pilot since he was 16. Since the day he could get his license, he did it. And he worked for Windows still there in Michigan. And since then, he's become a real estate photographer, a drone pilot, a real estate agent in Michigan. Now he's licensed in Florida. Like he's 21. Like it's insane. I couldn't even imagine being where he is or seeing the opportunity that he has with his brain. Like he's the one that I kind of rely on now. I check in with him. I'm like, hey, does this make sense? He's like, yeah. He kind of gives me that. He fights me on things. He doesn't. He's just not that yes man, which is absolutely fantastic for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah,
Good.
he gives me
Yeah.
that checks and balance for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but so talk about your YouTube channel. Like and I know that's always been kind of a thing in your wheelhouse, but talk about your YouTube channel. Like what are you doing with it? How is it working? And kind of, where are you going? What's the next thing with your YouTube stuff?
I'll tell you. Talk about consistency. I'll tell you the whole everything that's happened with YouTube. I started YouTube in Michigan. I mean, I've always had this thing for video. I really liked video. I like the cameras. I like the mics. I like staying on top of technology, drones. I think I more than anything like the creativity. Okay. In Michigan, I was doing the Kyle Whistle mayor strategy, interviewing restaurants and all of that. Well, that doesn't necessarily work well. It's good and it's exposure, but it doesn't necessarily work very well. And in Michigan, it also had its challenges for YouTube for other reasons. So every market's a little bit different, but I knew that moving to Florida, I moved my whole family to Florida a couple years ago. And for those who don't know me, I am the sole breadwinner in my house. I have 5 kids, and I was taking a humongous risk, leaving a pretty nice business behind in Michigan. Lots of friends, lots of family, large sphere listing business, 85% listing, and I was moving to Florida. And I knew I could do it based off of 2 things: a successful YouTube channel, because I saw people doing it in really hot states that people were moving to, and referrals. And I know that I have a lot of relationships with a lot of agents across the country, and I can kind of live on referrals if I ever needed to, as long as I do work with the referrals, much like I work with a sphere. Stay in touch with people. Don't go silent. Don't fall off the map. Stay social. But with YouTube, there's about 10 obstacles that stop people from doing video. And I kind of speak on this in different venues, but there's so many obstacles. And once you get through all the obstacles, then you can do it. And the first obstacle is camera. And we all have it in our pocket, right? But everybody's like stuck on, do I got to get a DSLR? Do I have to have this big fancy rig? Oh my gosh, how much does that cost? Most people have the right phone that has the unbelievable camera in it. Number 2 would be microphone. Once you get past the camera, you get to the microphone. And once you get past the microphone, then you need, what am I going to say? Once you get past what you're going to say, then you're going to be critical of yourself, and you're going to be like, I don't like how I sound, and I don't like how I look. Right?
Yeah.
And then once you get past that, then you're going to have this video sitting on your phone or on your computer, and you're not going to know what to do with it. And then you're going to find what to do with it. You're going to find an editor, or you're going to sit up all night, and it's going to drive you crazy because you're not going to know how to edit. And then there's just obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Then where to put it? Do I record vertical? Do I record horizontal? Right?
Yeah.
And then and at the very end, and I'm skipping way ahead, at the very end, it's consistency. You can do all of that, get past all of that. But if you're not consistent, just like anything else in real estate, Jimmy.
That's it. That's it. And that's where I think when agents try to do what you're talking about, right? And they you can't just wing it, right? One of the things you said, you had a plan, right? You moved your entire family to Florida. It was a big risk because you had a great business here, right? You lived in Clarkston and had a great business here, and I'm uprooting everything. But you had a vision, but not only did you have the vision, you had the plan of what to do, and you also had the plan knowing I could live off referrals because of the relationships you'd already built.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just like, hey, everybody, I'm moving to Florida. Guess what? Right. Like it was a very planned out, detail orientated thing. Right. It wasn't just like a willy nilly, I'm moving to Florida and I'm going to do YouTube now. Right. It was a very planned out, deliberate move. And I think that's another thing that agents and entrepreneurs all over miss out on. Right. We see, because we have shiny object. We see, oh my gosh, this works. I'm going to do that. But we don't investigate how it works, right? We just say, well, this person's making a lot of money doing this. I want to do that. It's like, well, do you really want to do that? I think I had Leo Perea on, and I think one of the things that he said, said something, he spent like $20,000 to go, realize this, look at this guy's business. And he came back and shut it all down. And I was like, man, he wasted 20 grand. He goes, it probably saved me 150 in the long run.
Yeah.
Because I spent the 20 to learn that I didn't want to do that part of the business anymore.
That's smart.
I was like, wow, it is smart, right? Because you and I, we've wasted time and money and just doing other stuff. Like,
and we're so focused on our pillars right now. The three main pillars we have, and we're so focused on those right now. It's really almost tough going to EXPCon. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm excited. I'm going, and I'll be there Sunday, Monday. I'll be there starting Sunday, and I'm looking more forward to the networking. But I don't want to get clouded. So my message to myself is, don't get excited about all these things that they're going to be offering. All these people are going to be the shiny objects, and it took me a long time, years, to get over the shiny object syndrome, right? And then somebody's going to come out with something and say something that I can guarantee you that's going to get my goat. And I'm going to be all excited about it. And I'm going to want to come back and implement it. And it's going to derail me from everything else I'm doing.
yeah.
And I got to be careful. Like, I have that internal struggle right now. And that's why I kind of stay away from some podcasts and I stay away from some YouTube videos, because you can get clouded really easy if you start listening to 10 different people. And next thing you know what way is what way. And so finally, we just got so focused on what we're doing that it's hard to implement anything other than that. Or actually, it's hard to not implement those things like you want to do it. So we're separating ourselves from it a little bit. So I do want to pick up a good tip or two, and that's all I'm going to allow myself to do, and then network with people and have fun.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. So two things out of that, right? So it's like, I just want to keep my blinders on, right? And I don't want to get distracted from what we're doing right now. But talk about why three pillars, right? Like, what are those three pillars that you're focused on right now?
Okay. Three pillars were referral and YouTube was the first two, like we talked about, right?
Yep.
And that's been really consistent. And what I realized recently is 85% of our business in Michigan was listings, and we got really good at it. And we weren't doing many listings here because we didn't have the sphere. We didn't know the people. And so Reed wanted to kind of take on the listing business, and he wanted to start prospecting, my son. So he gets on the phones, he gets some coaching, and the story goes, we were about to either shut down the listing side where we weren't going to focus on it too much, which that would have been silly, or we're going to find a way to do it, to prospect. I walked in, I watched him. I mean, he got really good on the phones as far as I'm concerned. He was coaching with some of the best. He is a bright kid, good on the phones. but he was struggling, and I don't know if it was the market. I don't. It probably wasn't the market. It's probably just him, and it's probably he was consistent. I don't know, and I watched it, and so to your point, your question earlier, how long do you wait? He's the guy that would have kept going all year for a year and never given up, which I respect. But I could see him. I could see his demeanor change. I could see his excitement change. I could see his. It was like I was looking at a corpse every morning when I'd come into the office. It was like I could see this, and I'd tell him stand up desk and turn on the lights and energy and role play and script, and he was doing a lot of that. And so finally, I just kind of worked through it, and I found a way to accelerate our listing business without that. And like Al said too, everybody goes right, we go left. And if
Yeah,
everybody's calling, we're going to do something different.
I love it.
So the third pillar is listings, and we're having fun with it.
Good. And so when like you've sent me a couple of examples of what you're doing, right? And I think what you're doing is incredible. Like the videos, the websites, the things that you're creating, is such a differentiator for your business. It's just something different, right?
Mhm.
And but again, staying focused. And I like what you brought up about EXPCon because here's the thing. So I was very deliberate this year too of going through I was up late last night going through my app, the EXP, the app for EXPCon, and deliberately picking out what sessions I wanted to go to
Mhm.
instead of just going to like jamming as many possible ones as I could in. And I wanted to stay really focused with ones I picked out. Like I don't want to say I don't want to go learn new stuff, right? But I want to go learn stuff that I'm trying to do in a new way, if that makes sense.
Exactly. So anything. So with me, when I go, it's going to be all about the listing. It's going to be luxury listings and or listings. It's going to be content and technology, and it's going to be referrals or networking. Right, like those are
Yeah.
the three. We're gonna if it doesn't fall in our pillar, I don't want to add a pillar right now. I'm good.
Yeah.
We got enough going on, and we're happy with our business, with where it's going and what we're doing. So, if it's anything to do with that, new construction or luxury or YouTube or content or drone, or technology, whatever it is, I'll go to those.
Yeah. And that's important for I think agents to hear too, right? We try to do so many things of again, there's this new thing and I want to do this, and there's this new thing and I want to do that. But I think the message is really important that agents that are listening to this now or later understand like again, find out what you're comfortable with, what your three pillars are, right? Because I think you need 3 to 5 business pillars, right? And three keeps you balanced. Five can be a lot, right? But three keeps you pretty good balanced. But focus on those three things, and then just like really just drill into those three things. And I think that's where a successful business comes from. You
I
know,
think in the three pillars, you're going to find pillars, and that sounds weird, but so new construction is one of our things, but that falls under YouTube, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it falls under YouTube. So new construction would technically be a fourth pillar, but it ties together. Social media, um, and being better on Instagram and being better on places like that, that actually kind of falls under referrals. Believe it or not, that kind of
yeah,
falls under referrals. So what are the main pillars? And then underneath them, there's some subs, that kind of relate to the plan. So yeah, 3 to 5 makes sense. It depends how you structure how you think through what you think through, um, when it comes to setting up your business. But that's why we just kind of stay in the three. If it doesn't relate to the three, we're out.
yeah, yeah. No, I love it, and that's again, it's because we've learned this through through doing all the wrong things. And
So many
man, like
times.
so many times, and I think that's, a lot of people will say, there's a lot of agents that we know, that are great agents that have been around for a long time doing a great business, but we constantly see them shifting gears, like doing different this. Now they've been doing it. They're good enough at what they're doing but it's annoying, right? Like it's like make up your mind, right? but they still do a good business, right? It's just how chaotic do you want it to be, right? And how or streamlined do you want it to be? You have the choice. You have the definite choice to make that there. But you've been the new construction and the YouTube, does that kind of go hand in hand? Because I know a lot of your videos you're doing your YouTube channel and pulling, that's how you're pulling. Now, how does your business pulling clients out of YouTube, right? Like, how does that work?
Well, that's amazing, actually. That's the most fun we have. Today, 1 o'clock today, a client from New York's coming in. They bought the home. This is one of the first ones that bought the home without knowing the area, without knowing the house, without seeing the house. It was all my videos, and it was me. I did a walkthrough for them at this new construction home. Okay. They're coming in today to do their walkthrough. They close on November 15th. And I found an EXP agent in Staten Island. He is absolutely fantastic. And I referred them to help him sell their house. Okay. And they're thrilled with him. And so that works in reverse too, right? So I'm getting a referral there. And I'm meeting him for the first time this weekend at EXP, but what a fantastic guy. Um, but so they came in off of YouTube because they saw some videos. They were doing some research, and it showed up. They were looking at schools and looking at areas, and they said, "Hey, I think," and they reached out. "I think you're the guy for us in the area we're looking." And we talked through it. I mean, there's been 15 of those in the last 12 months. We have one closing at the end of the month. She's from New York. I have 6 under contract right now, new construction, and they're 6 under contract right now that haven't closed, and they're all YouTube. And they all pay well because they're new construction.
Right.
And they're all kind of the easier deals because you're not dealing with a bunch of the garbage. So we really love new construction and YouTube, and they find us because we do it right. We're informative, and they pick us. I think that's the biggest thing. In my videos, and I am going to make a change. I am shifting a little bit. In my videos, I wear a baseball hat. Who is that?
Dave Petrolius.
Oh, Dave. Yeah. Hey, Dave.
Yeah. He said, good to see you, Tom. I can't believe how long it's been. Hope to see you at EXPCon. Love your videos.
Yeah, I love Dave. Dave's great. I got some history with Dave. He's awesome. In the videos, I'm like, okay, I'm going to find out who I am. And I'm wearing shorts, Hey Dude shoes, baseball hat, sleeve tattoo on my arm. And if they don't like me, they don't like me. Right. And that's kind of the attitude I had on it. And it's true. And that's how I still look at it. And what's great is they pick me. And once they pick you, because there's other people that do YouTube, once they pick you, they're picking you for a reason. And so I am shifting a little bit. I'm starting to kind of blend more luxury in with the YouTube. And so I'm going to drop the hat, probably put on some slacks. Everything else is going to stay the same. So there are some things that you go through growth patterns, and you learn, and you see what you test the waters. But yeah, I don't know, man. New construction and YouTube, love, love, love. I don't know. Did I answer your question, or did I totally?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's funny too, because being in Florida, I think luxury can be a different thing in Florida, right? Like, you're talking about the baseball hat and the Hey Dudes and whatever. That's like luxury in Florida, right? Like, I mean, like, because I want to be on the beach, right? I want to be on the water, right? So it's like, I want to be on my boat. That's luxury in Florida. It's different.
Yeah, we're not going to get away from who we are there. And like, I'm not taking down videos or anything.
Yeah.
And I see myself shifting a little bit. I think what happened is once we incorporated listings back in our business, I think that's where the person wasn't picking me now. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm picking them again.
Yeah.
Or I'm outbound prospecting more. We found a way for to get listings, expired listings, as incoming opportunities, meaning inbound calls for expired listings. So I think they are kind of picking you, but you still have to interview them.
Yeah.
Right. and they're not watching you for a whole video. They don't even know you have videos out there until you present it to them. But once you present those videos to them, like this one that we just got 2 days ago in Wesley Chapel, you show them that I already have a video about Wesley Chapel and about Epperson Lagoon, and I show them at the listing appointment, they're done.
Yeah.
They're done. Completely done deal. Sitting there in their living room showing them my video on YouTube that I made about their neighborhood, and they're completely a done deal. So that's the magic behind it. It all kind of ties together.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you're in a very good area where there's a lot of building going on. There's, there's advancements, there's new construction, you got these people who are moving from New York or from Michigan down to Florida because they want to get the heck out of the snow. Right. And you just had all these hurricanes happen. So I'm sure that had to slow your business for a minute. I mean, at least a couple weeks, right? Where it was a little bit of a
Hurricanes
lull.
for the life of Florida, for as far as Florida has been, as long as Florida's been here, there's been hurricanes, and some in the Carolinas, but hurricanes are known for, Florida's known for hurricanes. The new building code after 2004 in Florida, I've never felt more safe. I had 95-mile-an-hour winds cross by our house. We were right at the edge of the eye. There's some tree damage and things like that around the neighborhood, but I've never felt more safe at 95-mile-an-hour winds in a cinder block home. It's a whole three pigs or little pigs, whatever you call those, right?
Yeah.
The huff and pluff and blow your house down.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Michigan, I would get, a 40-mile-an-hour blizzard, and I felt like the house was going to come down on me. In Florida, 95 mile an hour, once it got to us, because I'm inland a little bit, it was like business as usual. You
Yeah.
walk outside, you're like, whoa, this is crazy. So I did have another YouTube client came in. They were in the evacuation. They got the flights canceled because they came in, they bought a Pulte home. They bought a new construction home. They get on the road to get out of here. It took them 8 hours to get out of Florida because they're in the evacuation route. They got home and they're like, Tom, it was so great to meet you in person. I loved it there. Everything was great. It was a little chaotic getting out of there. And I just wired my extra $40,000 in for my deposit. Okay. People aren't going to not move to Florida. Let's just
Right.
face it. Like and people have short-term memory when it comes to some of these storms. And yes, they were back to back. So there's going to be maybe a little lull, but everything's getting cleaned up. The homes are built since '04 with the Miami-Dade hurricane code. The homes are built unbelievable. Like they have all these regulations, like, the roof trusses are strapped to the cinder block. Like, so the whole roof can't come off.
Right.
They're strapped to the cinder block. There's a whole lot of things that you have to do now. So if you live in a newer home in Florida, that's why new construction seems to be our thing. If you live in a newer home in Florida, you're safe.
Did you see the story about the guy that literally strapped his house
Oh, I
down?
saw that. Man, I
Yeah.
saw that. I can guarantee you it was a before '04 home.
Yeah, right. We had a question come in. So
Yeah.
Al said, "How did you get people to know about you in a new state? YouTube only, or were you doing some kind of marketing campaign?" I think you already answered it, but interesting, you're getting listings.
Yeah. YouTube is not for the listings. Al, YouTube's not for the listing. YouTube's for the incoming buyers. Getting to know you. Okay, so I live in this neighborhood called Fishhawk Ranch, and Fishhawk Ranch is a 25-year-old neighborhood in Lithia, Florida. We have a great school system. We're about an hour from all the beaches, all the beaches, whether you go all the way down to Siesta Key or you go over to Clearwater, every drive, because of the routes, is about an hour. So in an hour, you're on vacation. But Fishhawk Ranch has 40 different neighborhoods inside of one neighborhood. So there's 8 different pools. There's 25 miles of bike trail or 28 miles of bike trails. There's, other courts. There's even an outdoor hockey rink, right? Like there's all kinds of outdoor, roller hockey rink. So many cool things here in the neighborhood. So when I got here, my first 8 months, the biggest mistake I made is I didn't think for the first 8 months that I was going to be the town mayor of Fishhawk Ranch. It was, I don't want to say it was a huge mistake, but I put all my eggs in one basket and I started making YouTube videos, but I put all my eggs in one basket with trying to market to the neighborhood and trying to get my name out there. But there's a couple people that have lived here, a few agents in here that have lived here for 20, 25 years, and that's all the signs you see. So once I realized I need to expand my horizon on that, then the business started rolling in, right? So instead of just making Fishhawk Ranch videos, I opened up the whole gamut to all these popular areas, new construction neighborhoods, and whatnot. So it's not necessarily people here in Florida know who I am. It's just people find me organically on YouTube. But now with the listing business, it's the same way you do it. We just do it differently. It's the expireds, the for sale by owners, absentee owners, and things like that. We have a different outbound process, but it's all very much the same. So that's the only way we found to get the listings right now. And I have had a couple word of mouth, which has been good in my neighborhood. But that's kind of few and far between compared to everything else we're doing.
Love it. Yeah, it's again, it's getting your name out there, right? And not. I think when you go, I guess I talked to Tina Call about the same thing. She moved to North Carolina, didn't know anybody, just did the same thing, right? And built a business, and going there. I think it's exposure, right? I think it's just getting yourself out there enough, and then, like you said, then it starts to become word of mouth, and it takes some time to build it. But it's going down, and I think the one message that I want everybody to hear from you is, like, you've planned all these things out. This isn't just like, you had a goal to move the family and do all the things and move to Florida, but you had a plan for all of it. It wasn't just like, hey, I'm not going to just willy-nilly this thing and go down there. You had an absolute plan to do what exactly what you're doing, right? Even moves that you're doing now internally, like you said, inside of one pillar is like a couple more pillars.
Yeah. A couple things that relate to that pillar. Yeah. I want to clarify something though. Because you said that I had a plan a couple times. I did have a plan.
Yeah.
But January 2nd, 2022, my wife and I were walking into Costco Auburn Hills, and it was 2 inches of slush on the ground. It was 1 degree out, and the rain, and we had the thick coats on, and we were just getting blasted by, pelted with rain and sleet. And we get into the entrance to Costco on January 2nd, 2022, and walk in, and my wife goes, "Why do we live here?" And I looked at her and I was like, "We don't have to anymore," right? We wanted the older 2 kids to get out of school. The younger 3 kids, we could move. But Reed was already graduated. Avery, my daughter, was at CMU. And I was like, we don't have to anymore. And by the end of Costco, walking through with the basket, talking about it, getting excited, by the end of Costco, we realized we wanted to move. We get home, and this is how fast this happened. We get home, we're sitting at the kitchen table with the 3 littles, and we said, "Hey guys, what do you think we moved to Florida?" All the same night. And my girls freaked out because they have a little friend group in Clarkston. My son was like, "Let's go." Right? That was Braden. He said, "Let's go." And so we booked a flight the next month. We came down here. We wanted to look at Florida from a different lens, like from a non-vacationer lens.
Yeah.
And we did. And we put it in the kids' hands, believe it or not. And we said, we're going to go out to dinner on Thursday night. We leave Friday. We're going to go out to dinner, and we're all going to vote. And it's unanimous or nothing. And we went to P.F. Chang's on Thursday night, and everybody raised their hand and let's do it. That was January, and then we came here in February. We were gone. We moved in July. So that all happened really, really fast. But once you get it in your head, then you start planning. So you're right when you say I planned, but it wasn't like this long drawn out thing.
Right.
I was like, I went all in, and I was like, okay, we're moving, we're doing it. And we're going to move in the summertime. That was another plan. We got to move in the summertime. Braden had not started high school yet. He's a junior now. So that was important.
Yeah.
So he had not started high school. So I was like, this is our window. The girls don't have boyfriends. The boy doesn't have a girlfriend. Like, the oldest, Reed, stayed behind for a year.
Yeah.
Avery was at CMU. She was going to move with her fiance to West Virginia. So we had the three to worry about in school. And that's what we did. We said, okay, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it now, because it gets too complicated once you get into high school. It gets too complicated once there's a boyfriend or a girlfriend involved.
Right, right.
It gets too complicated. If we don't do it now, we don't do it. And so that's when we just went all in. And that's when, we've had these discussions offline. That's when I was like, okay, how am I going to structure my business? Who do I have to align with? How am I going to do this? How is this even going to work? I being the sole breadwinner, knowing nobody, so it
Yeah,
is possible, but it gave us a short time, like Elon Musk says, if you give yourself a year to do something, it'll take you a year. If you give yourself 2 months or 2 weeks, it'll take you 2 weeks. Right.
exactly.
And I don't know if that's his exact quote, but you get the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was planned, but it was also spontaneous, I guess. Spontaneous planning, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right? Like, so maybe it was spontaneous, but it probably hadn't been far out of your mind for, whatever. And
No, you're right. You're right
you
about that.
you get in one of these Michigan winters, man, and you get tired of it. Like, it's exhausting sometimes.
I think we started getting tired of it for a few years. And then another thing that made Florida attractive for me, and I've since been kind of set straight a little bit halfway, is I always felt the lull in the winter in Michigan. Not physically, I mean a little bit physically, but more of with the business. And no matter how good you are, no matter how good you are or how much business you do, you take a little bit of a hit in the winter in Michigan. Like you just do. The market shifts a little bit, and some people can argue that, and that's fine. But to me, I kind of got sick of that. And I was like, well, I got business year round in Florida. Well, look what just happened with the hurricanes. When you come out of the middle of the summer in Florida, your business tends to take a dive for probably 2.5 to 3 months.
Right.
Okay. There is a little bit of a lull because not a lot of people are moving, or not a lot of people are coming here looking for houses in 100-degree weather. So it's kind of opposite, but it's
Yeah.
not as long. It's a shorter window, but then I have 9 months of pure heaven that started like now.
Right.
That starts now. I have 9 months of like just heaven, and I can run all winter long, and all these people come in town, and then they fall in love, and they start looking on YouTube on what it's like to move there.
And then, so yeah, it's like you're living opposite seasons of us almost, right? Like it's like your July probably is like our December.
Yeah.
And it just you get that little lull in there.
Well, I'll tell you one piece about that, Jimmy. This is something that I didn't know until I got here. In the summertime in Michigan with my kids, I felt like I didn't do enough because I was so busy with real estate. Right? Kids are out of school.
Yep.
A ton. And you're like, man, I want to do that. I can't. Right? We should go here, but we can't. This is like selling season. Like this is the busy side of the business. Here, when the kids are out of school, it's your slow spot. It's really wild. And so we've done more in 2.5 years as a family than I had done the previous 12. We've done more stuff, more adventures, more hiking. There's no price tag on that. You just can't put a price tag on that. And we weren't the wintertime sports people. I'm a hockey player, but I was never a big skier because I was too busy playing hockey.
Right.
I was never like there's some things like that I could have done differently. But for the most part, our life has changed that way too, because I spend more time with the kids because there's more available time to spend with the kids when they're out of school.
Yeah. No, it's true, man. Like, and I've never been a skier either. It's basketball season. So, it's like, you can't go skiing because what if you get hurt skiing and you can't play basketball? I'm like, well,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Al's got another question for you. He said, do you think more buyers look on YouTube than Zillow, Realtor, or other search engines?
No. Well, that's just a tough question. That's an interesting
question that can, like, to clarify, I think, a little bit of this question for Alan. I don't want to answer this for you, but I think if they're looking for a specific spot, right? I'm looking in Tampa, right? And I'm looking very specific. So maybe that is what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. because you don't know what you don't know, right? So Al, if I were to ask Al right now, Al, if you were to move to Florida, where would you move? And he might have a place that he vacations or something, and that might be an easy target. But if you're like, hey, I want to move East Coast or Gulf Coast, Ocean Coast or Gulf Coast, or I want to move north or south, that's pretty much all you know right now. Okay. Once we targeted Tampa, I found there's a big disconnect trying to find there's a like when we like my experience trying to move here, I really didn't know how to move here. I didn't know where to look. I didn't know who to rely on. I actually met with a couple agents that I happen to know through networking, and I went to coffee with them, and I was like, "Hey, what areas should I be looking?" I looked on YouTube, saw some things, saw some people. Those people now still do YouTube, but I saw them talking about certain areas, and I was like, "Okay, that looks like a good area." Zillow wouldn't have told me any of that. Zillow would have told me zero of that. So I think it's the funnel, Al. I think you gotta understand where you want to move, and then it funnels down to do some research on the area and the schools and drive times and locations. That's kind of what we highlight in YouTube for that reason. And then once it gets down here, then they start picking areas, and then they fly in. And once they fly in, we show them like the top 3 areas, get them acquainted. They like, oh yeah, I really like this area because of this reason, and then we narrow it down further. And then next thing you know, we're under contract, and they're moving to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
it's an interesting question though. Thanks, Al.
yeah, and I think the other thing is too, like, so this is, and I like the way you said you had to look at it when you went down there with Melissa and you guys you had to look at it from a different lens. You're not on vacation anymore, right? Or actually
Mhm.
gonna be living here, and you have to kind of, because like we spend a lot of time in Alabama with my family, and my kids are always like, we should move. And I'm like, well, you guys realize it's not vacation every day, right? Like we don't want to, you know what I mean? Like it's not. You'd actually have to go to school, right? Like it's not just like we actually could just live here and live on the lake every day. That'd be great, but reality sets in at some point, right?
Yeah, and so I intentionally right now because okay, so a little bit TMI here. I have psoriasis, like a light case. Yeah, thanks. Who's that? Who's that?
Yeah.
Sounds
So
like
the
Tom starting a
YouTube,
commercial moving in Florida. This is an upcoming YouTube video for creating more valuable family time. It's true. It's true.
but what a
Um,
commercial! What a commercial that would be.
so I deal with a little bit of psoriasis, and elbows, knees, a spot on my torso, ankles, and I've dealt with this for forever in Michigan. It really is. It's just a kind of a pain. I don't have a bad case of it, but I have a case of it, and I don't have it anymore. I don't have it anymore. It's gone. Sunshine, vitamin D, and so I intentionally sometimes because I live here, you have to be more intentional about your time. Um, when you can take that break and go to the pool in the middle of the day and get some sun because oh my gosh, I've been so busy. I haven't gone to the pool. On the weekends it's kind of easy here and there. But sometimes you'll go like right now this time of the year, you'll go and you'll be like, I haven't been in the pool in a week. And I know that sounds really rough or sounds weird for me to say, but once you live here and once you realize that the sunshine actually helps me physically, I intentionally go and I tell my wife, "Hey, I'm walking up to the pool for half an hour. You want to join me?" And she's like, "No, I'm busy." Okay, cool. So it is real life. It is
Yeah,
real life with a little cherry on top. You're like, "Oh, I'm going to the pool," right? And we don't go to the beach, but every few weeks, right? But we won't go to the beach again for probably a few more weeks. We're going to let the beach settle down after the hurricanes. But once you get there, you spend that whole day there, and you have all the beach gear, and you have that family day, and then you maybe go back the next day, do some hiking somewhere or some adventure somewhere. It's just it's magical. It just does so much for your everything. I don't know. But my body, like my psoriasis spots are gone. And dude, I know that's again, I know for this podcast, it's probably way too much information. Nobody cares about my psoriasis, but living in Florida, it's changed my life in so many different ways. Um, but it is real life. You're not always on vacation, to your point.
yeah. This is a commercial for Florida, I think. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
this might be a commercial for Florida, Tom. I don't like
yeah.
you're curing illnesses and like it's amazing. But no, just like from a mental capacity too, right? I mean, it's it feels better. Like you said, I can just walk down to the pool, right? Today when I left and got in my truck to come to the studio, it's cold. It's 45 degrees outside. It's not warm here anymore, right? Like it's end of October. You know how it gets. It's rainy. It's the frosters are on. Like but by the time I walk out of here, I'm gonna have the air conditioning on because and then this raspy throat starts. Right? It's crazy. Um, but no, man, I think that agents that are listening, I think, are getting a lot out of this only because, again, and I say you plan things out, which you do. Um, I think that, again, it's based on three pillars. I think what agents can get out of this is really the fundamentals, right? And finding what your fundamentals are, and you found what your fundamentals are, and you're just sticking to them.
Mhm.
And I think that is the business changer for you. And now, uh, this question came in: who would win in a fight, Tom or an alligator?
I've watched a lot of these reels and TikToks and YouTube videos about guys, these Florida men wrestling alligators. I think I could take it.
Yeah,
It really depends on the size of the alligator. We have this one, he's about 6 foot, maybe 7 foot alligator in the pond by our house and the kids have named him Puppy. Um, he's probably the biggest I would take. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There you go.
There's some big alligators here.
So Don, who's on my team, said, hey Tom, great stuff. Can you give us a general idea of what your weekly schedule looks like with your time dedicated to your YouTube pillar of business?
Yeah, YouTube pillar business will take up some time. The Don of real estate. I know who Don is. Is he in St. Clair Shores?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yep.
follow him on Instagram, and we've interacted a little bit here and there.
The Don.
Yeah, the Don. I like his videos on Instagram, and he's a good dude. And it's funny because I reached out to him at some point for something. Anyway, okay, so I can tell you this, Don. This is kind of a more elaborate conversation, but I'll give you the nuts and bolts of it. I really like to separate B-roll from A-roll. And B-roll is where I go out there in just regular shorts and a t-shirt, and I can sweat and it doesn't really bother me. And I can go get the drone shots, the driving shots, the walkthroughs, anything where I'm not on camera or I don't have to talk. And I like getting all of that content kind of in a day or in several hours. It depends. And I also, when I'm there, I learn. I talk to the new construction salesperson, or I talk to people. I just kind of make it a mission to go out and learn an area or learn a neighborhood and get as much B-roll as possible. Then I come home and I dump it and I name it and I put it in a B-roll folder. Then I take a half a day dedicated to go shoot the A-roll. And the A-roll is talking. And so here is the one tip I want everybody that's listening to take away from when it comes to video. All a video is a bunch of all a video is, like on YouTube, is a bunch of short videos. So if you can talk for 30 to 45 seconds about a subject or about a piece of your video, that's all you need. Some people even say less. Some people say you can do 20 seconds and 20 seconds and splice them together. But if you imagine a YouTube video is broken up by drive times, schools, amenities, it's just so many things, like so many different pieces of the pillar, or so many different pieces of the video. And if you break each one up, I can talk about schools for 30 to 45 seconds easy. I can talk about the amenities that are in the neighborhood for 30 to 45 seconds easy. I can talk about drive times for 30 to 45 seconds easy. So my job is to go get those 30 to 45 second shoots, and I put them in order. Oh, you got to do an intro. You got to do an outro, right? So if you find 5 to 8, or well, I say 6 to 10 maybe, clips that you need to record, then you can go do that in about a half a day. So I leave my car running, so the AC is on. I get out, I find the location where I want the backdrop to be, have the good mic, have the good camera, set it up. I don't even need a videographer. And I talk and I mess up 3 or 4 times before I get it right. I take that clip, I name it intro or location or amenities, and then I get my editor to put all these together, separated by B-roll and enhanced by B-roll that I got the day before. So it's an hour and a half. It's probably a good 2 days a week to do it. But you're also learning so much, because once you learn about that area and that expired listing pops up, you can come and talk the talk and walk the walk.
Right.
It's a tough conversation. That's like a coaching conversation. It's like let's get on a podcast for an hour and talk about that.
That's a whole nother one. Al's got one last question. How long is it when you got your first closing there after moving, and when did it start being consistent?
Well, I got my first closing, Al, technically before I moved here. Started becoming consistent about a year in, once I realized I had to get away from the just sticking to the neighborhood thing, and once I got on YouTube and everything. So consistency is there now, for sure. I mean, we have 7 listings on the board, ranging from 400,000 to 6.5 million. 6 new construction under contract right now, and we just have me and my son right now. So, and we have a small little group. We have a Kaylee over in St. Pete too, transaction coordinator. So yeah, it takes a while. It does take a while, but consistency probably 10 months to a year in.
Love it. Well, man, look, that hour flew by again, as usual. They usually do. So, but I appreciate you being on, everybody. I appreciate you joining us on the Elite Real Estate Podcast. You can find us everywhere you find podcasts, and we will see you. Well, I'll see you, my man, in a couple days, and then I'll see everybody next Friday. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Al.